a good chunk of my afternoon is spent just babysitting the video to make sure that it uploads. Someone said, are you thinking about doing some of these even after COVID? We are currently not. Maybe Jennifer can talk more about this, but sort of the interpretation of the law right now is it's an emergency, kids don't have access to books, therefore we can do this. And I think although a lot of people do read books out loud on the internet when it's not an emergency state, it's not something that we are legally ready to deal with. And then, yeah, how are you dealing with author permissions? We're not.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in really quick. There has been some guidance from some attorneys who are affiliated with the American Library Association stating that these are, extenuating circumstances. And I think the goal right now is just to make sure that children have access to materials they wouldn't have otherwise have access to, and everything falls under fair use for now. But if you're recording things and posting them, you're going to want to try to take those down when things calm down a little bit, and not leave them up in perpetuity, is the general guidance that I've read. Typically, when we are not in a pandemic situation, you would go through the process of approaching whoever's the copyright holder, so typically the publisher of the work, and obtaining permission to use the work. And then once you have permission, for whatever guidelines they have, you can use it. I also wanted to let everybody know that in the middle of Cassie's discussion, I did start recording this because I hear that some of you are having connectivity issues around the state. Thunderstorms are rolling through. So we'll record this and try to host it probably on the ICFL COVID-19 website that we created as soon as I can figure out how to get that up there. So if you have to leave for whatever reason, we're gonna try to record all of this too. Okay, Cassie, let's see, now I need to look at the chat.
I had a couple of other things I wanted to talk about. So one of them, when I first started doing it, I tried to film all the story times in one day to make it more streamlined to post them. And my story times are only equaling out to be about 10 to 15 minutes each. So I thought that wouldn't be a big deal, but I highly recommend that you do not do that, just for your own mental health. I noticed that like by the third story time, I would watch myself sort of become more sad. And I mean, this thing is taking a mental toll on all of us. So I am really cognizant about planning when I film the story times for the afternoon after I've had lunch. I haven't looked at the news in a few hours, because it's really important for me to be upbeat and be a positive force in my patrons' lives through this weird time. And then someone asked if we would consider doing a program online that doesn't involve a book. Yes. My library has all the full-time librarians working from home in committees. And one of the committees that I'm on is the virtual programming committee. And so we are meeting 2 or 3 times a week to talk about different types of virtual programming that we can bring to our community outside of Storytime, because I don't think Storytime will stop anytime soon. We're getting such great feedback about it. And then no, as far as I know, the city does not require me to archive my content. But I will say that, so what I'm doing is, because I want to avoid the issues that Jen was talking about, if you do it through a Facebook post, you can time it. You can say, okay, I want this post to expire in this many days. And that is what we're doing. So, when I post today's story time, I will set it to expire in 5 days. So that way it's still I can go into the library's Facebook and I can still see those. I can still see the great feedback we've gotten. I can still see all of the resources that I left for the parents, but the parents cannot see it any longer, and neither could a lawyer if they wanted to be the worst person on the planet. Yeah, and then songs, so today actually I recorded one where I used a Laurie Berkner song, and what I did was I read the first book, and then I said, okay, pause this video, there's a link above, go visit my friend Laurie, do a dance with her, whatever, and then come back. And then that way we're kind of also driving people to these people that we like, and like I direct people to Jim Gill all the time, and this is a good way to do it. And yeah, like Jim Gill has already given permission, he doesn't care, but I would also like to introduce people to him, so I think it's a good way to do that. Any other questions? Sorry if I breezed through that.
No, that's good. Thanks, Cassie. And also, if it's still up there, I saw one the other day of you playing the ukulele, which I thought was fantastic, and it was a very lovely video. So I recommend that you go and check out Cassie's library's Facebook page. So it's the Twin Falls Public Library.
I play the banjo-lele in every single one.
Wow, it's pretty awesome. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and listen to Sherry from the Donley Library, who has come up with some very creative ways to do virtual story time that I think the concept is totally different than what Cassie's doing in Twin Falls. So,
hey. Hi, everybody. So I did want to point out that I posted an article from an attorney, his name is Kyle Courtney, and he's actually a librarian that's an attorney, so it's a really weird combination. The chairman of our trustee board is also an attorney. And so we've been really cautious the whole time. And so everything we've done is kind of, I've consulted her along the way. So, but the article that I posted is actually really great because it kind of explains to you that in times of an emergency, these things are different. And so somebody asked earlier, are you going to continue to do this after COVID? And my response to that would be, no, it's going to be way harder after COVID. And we're going to have to make different adjustments. And once we go back to whatever normal becomes, I don't know if we'll be possible to do what we're doing right now. So, so I did want to just post that out. So we're not ignoring copyright. We're just working through the emergency. And right now we have COVID normal, and COVID normal is not the same as normal. And it may not be the same as what our future normal is. I mean, we may never be able to go back to the way we were a month ago. So I just wanted to point that out. The thing we're doing, so when I started, I think the thing for me was within the first 2 days of me doing a live story time, is I realized that what our kids need is some kind of consistency. And consistency for them right now translates as normal. And so I decided to do it Monday through Friday. And that way, every single day at 2 o'clock, they know that it's 2 o'clock. Because right now, I mean, even as an adult, I don't know what time it is. We're floating through our days, and we literally don't know that it's lunchtime because we slept till 11. And we don't know that it's bedtime until it gets dark outside. And so I did it at 2 o'clock every day. And then I realized really fast I was going to overwhelm myself, because that meant every day I had to stop doing what I was doing, and I had to get online, and I had to grab a book, and I had to do this. And so I decided I needed to have other people read. And so who reads well? And that's beautiful people. So I contacted Miss Idaho, and I let beauty pageant contestants take over our story time. And we had Mrs. Idaho, we had Miss Idaho, who was absolutely amazing. And she would probably read for any library that wanted her to read. She is going to med school to be a veterinarian. And she engaged with all the comments on the side. She did a way better story time than I would have ever done. We had Mrs. Earth, Northwest, and her beauty pageant platform is environmental, which is totally different for me. There was some of them that I was like, but all they did was run the book past me, and then I gave them access to our Facebook for 24 hours. And every single one of them did a really great job. The kids were really engaged. It brought new readership to our library, probably. People that didn't know that we existed, not just on social media, but actual new readership. people who know that we had online books became aware of it because their friends were reposting. Mrs. Idaho, who's also married to Brian Scott, who's a NASCAR racer. And he like popped in and was like, hey, totally different readership than what we've had before. And they were all super eager to do it. Did they provide their own picture books? Yes. They ran it past me. They gave me the title of the book, but they got to choose their own book. Most of them I actually do not have in our library. I mean, our library is super small in comparison to some of the other larger libraries, but they all provided their own book. I did purchase one of the picture books already and had it, it should be here this week. And the reason that I did that was because it was so good. The book was excellent. Yes, somebody can update you with notes. So on ours now that we have kind of, I did a week and a half of beauty pageant contestants. So then I was like, what am I gonna do next? What special guest am I gonna have? And as we adjust back to school this week, I decided that I would have the students do it. And so this week, today started it, this week I have kids taking over our story time. And they're running it themselves. So from elementary kids to middle schoolers. And so when I proposed it to a few of the parents last week, one of the young gentlemen, his name is Jack, and Jack is reading tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So Jack asked, well, what do I have to do? And I said, well, you would just get online and you're gonna do a live story time. And he said, can I read my animal facts? And I said, is it from your book? And he said, yeah. So Jack has started recording them, putting them on his Facebook page, and PBS contacted me because Jack, his family and everybody was sharing it. And so PBS is featuring Jack's story time. And so he is doing the live story time tomorrow, and PBS is airing it at the same time. On their, it's like Conversations with Idaho or something. I don't remember what the show is called. And now I feel really bad that I don't remember, but that's my shout out to PBS. I will find out what the show is called and tell you. But she contacted the library and she was super sweet. And so I think that you just have to adjust. And I know somebody was earlier about pre-recorded versus live. For us in our small community, what some of these people really need is just to communicate through the comments. They don't need to hear the story. They literally are wanting to know that somebody's alive. And I think that it's a crazy time that we're in, that commenting back and acknowledging them and saying, oh, I see that you're on, is so huge for them. When Miss Idaho like acknowledged the kids, most of it's the parent's name that's in the comments. And so they're not actually acknowledging the kids, but when the parents say, oh, it's Kai and Scarlett here, and then when one of these contestants is like, oh, Kai and Scarlett, those kids get so excited. The other day I had to read, and I acknowledged one of the girls who comes to our reading party club all the time. And I said, oh, hi, Quincy. And her mom later sent me a message saying, the moment you said her name, she was jumping up and down, and she was so excited that she said it was so weird that you were on TV. So some of these people aren't just watching it on a computer screen. They're actually watching it on their smart TVs, which is so crazy. But these kids, that's the connection right now to reality, is their real world experience is a computer screen right now. And for years we told parents, don't be digital, don't be digital, don't be just digital. And now we're like, be digital, be digital, be digital. And so their only break from things of real that they know and they understand is seeing people like yourself, like Patsy, like their own librarians. So I encourage you all that, yeah, digital whiplash, exactly. And so I encourage you all, whatever is going to work for your community, then do it. But I will tell you that the biggest bump that we have is by people sharing and by engagement. So if you're just doing a digital story time and you're not having people tune in, it's going to get discouraging really fast. And so my thing is to have people set up to engage no matter what you're doing. So you got to have somebody there to like make a comment, or the first few days to share it on your personal pages. And then I have been trying to go to different libraries and also engage on their pages. I'm on the ARSL, which is the Association of Rural and Small Libraries. I'm on the ARSL email thread. And so I have various libraries all across the US and that are small. And I've been trying to go to their virtual story times and just engage. And then they've come to ours and have done the same. And I think that that's really important, is that you are also promoting other libraries, because the engagement is what gets it seen in your community. Yes.
All right. And for those of you who asked, I think Sherry's using Facebook as the platform, and so is Cassie, is that correct? Yeah.
Cassie's doing pre-recorded and we're doing live.
Right.
But after our live, we're saving it. And the reason that we're saving it is we were recommended to do that from an attorney, just because live feed is an interesting, there's a lot of mistakes in it. It's not as polished, but saving it, people can also see that it's not as polished. And the only one, the thing about copyright too is it's not just the author, it's actually the publishers who own the copyright, which is a lot of people don't understand. It's actually the publishers. And the biggest problem with that is on songs. So the artist of the song actually doesn't own the copyright, the publisher does. And so that's one thing that we found out. There's a few songs that are not able to be used in live performance. And so live performance is different than regular recorded reading too.
All right, and can you give us what your Facebook page is really quick?
Ours is www.facebook.com/Donley Library.
Okay.
And it's every Monday through Friday at 2 o'clock is ours.
And if you're, if you would like to add your virtual events to a calendar for all of Idaho, we've put together one on the Commission's COVID-19 resources page. So there's a form you fill out. When you fill out the form, it will populate a Google Calendar with your virtual events. So that way you can share when your event is and then kind of take a look at what other people are doing. So I want to turn it over to Stacy from the Latah County Library District, the Moscow branch, to talk about how they've been doing their virtual programs. So she does a couple of different story times, and then I think they've got an online book club that her library is doing. And if you go and watch her stuff, it sometimes does feature her live actual baby. Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. All right. Well, we are doing a couple of different virtual story times, and this is my coworker for the time being. This is baby Callie. We are doing a preschool story time, which features me and Mr. Mason, my coworker. We're doing a book paired with a song, and then we do a baby time, which is me and Callie direct from our house. And we do a kind of just exactly what our normal story time is, our normal baby time. And so that for us is is songs and bounces and finger plays and one book. And then we're going to be doing some book review videos as well of our juvenile and our YA collection. So that's something we're really excited about that we're going to be doing digitally. We've done a couple of different formats. We've done some Facebook Live, which we have done in the library when it was closed. And we've done some pre-recorded ones as well. Right now we're doing pre-recorded because some of you are probably finding as well that it's really hard to do Facebook Live when you have real real things going on in your lives. So it's really hard to keep your dog from barking or your kids from needing something in the middle of doing your videos. So we're recording them, and I'm using iMovie just right from our work iPad to edit them and then upload them. And that way we can schedule our posts as well, so that you don't have to be somewhere at a specific time to put your content up. It allows me to a little bit more freedom. And then we are doing a digital book club as well. Our adult services librarian is doing that. And so that's kind of been a fun, a fun thing to offer. Our adult services librarian, Bailey, she just started doing that. That's a fun way to engage people. Oh, going into the toy box. Oh, come here, you. Oh, okay. But right now we're just kind of seeing, is the book club through? It's actually, we're just putting a post on, it's called What You Readin' Wednesday. And so every Wednesday we just have a post that goes up on our Facebook page where Bailey says, what are you guys reading? And then everyone kind of comments with what they're reading, and then she just asks them questions, and they give book recommendations to each other. So that's been kind of fun. It was probably one of the most engaging posts we've had in quite a while. We don't get a whole lot of community engagement in our Facebook. I mean, we really like it, but we don't get a whole lot of people posting. So that was very successful. And she's also doing some like adult story times, so that's worth checking out. She's doing some scary adult readings. I think that she's doing one this Thursday, either afternoon or evening, and so that will be kind of exciting. She's doing a Neil Gaiman scary story. So we're trying to really ramp up our digital programming because we are not doing it on site, and we really love it. As much as our patrons love it, I think a lot of the reason why we're doing it is because it's our favorite part of our jobs. And we still need to be working, and if we, we can do all the ordering that we can do, and, all of the preparation for when we open that we can do. But what our programming at our library loves is to actually do the programs. So we decided that that was more important for us to focus on our digital programming. But we probably won't continue it once we're all back in business, because it's very, very time consuming. And we all already know that we work a lot of hours at our normal jobs. And I can't imagine doing story times in the building every single week, multiple times a week, and then also doing Facebook stories several times a week. I think that would just be too much. I'd have to quit my job. So, but yeah. That's kind of what we're doing. You can hop over to our Facebook page and check it out. It's at Latah Library. We haven't done any sign language, but we're trying to, on ours, we're trying to caption. So anything that we can schedule beforehand, we're captioning our story times, or we're trying to make sure that we provide any lyrics to songs. So for our baby time, we're putting in with our baby time slideshow so that people can see all the words of the songs. And I think that's fun for our grown-ups too. We use the exact same songs every single week. So if you come to baby time, you know every single song. But if you don't come to baby time, it'd be a really fun way to get to know some of those songs. So. And I saw someone said something about captioning. I'm on my phone, so the features for chat are kind of not existent very well. But when you're in Facebook, you can caption your videos. And so we're captioning our story times. Facebook, yeah, that's right. Facebook Live doesn't caption. Yeah, it has to be the actual pre-recorded videos. That is true.
And for those of you who are interested in some of the resources that we've been talking about, I created a Google Doc that has several tabs of lots of different resources that have been coming into my inbox over the past couple of weeks. But one of the tabs is on streaming Storytime, and it has a couple of links to folks out there who are already doing some ASL Storytimes. And one of them actually has a good blog post on just general good info for doing a virtual Storytime, everything from speaking up and speaking slowly and clearly so that you can be heard, and things like that. So it's definitely worth, I'm going to go ahead and here's a very long link to a Google Doc. That Google Doc is on ICFL's COVID-19 website, and it's open for anybody to edit. So if you find anything that you want to add to it, feel free. Oh, and we've had a few questions about doing things for teens and tweens, doing Dungeons and Dragons for teens and adults. I saw something else, doing a Q&A with a YA author via Zoom. That's a great idea. And some more ideas here. So before we open it up for questions, I know there's a few other people on the chat today who have experience doing virtual story times and virtual programs. Does anybody else want to chime in with any tips and tricks?
Don't let your dogs be involved. My first one that I did, you could hear my dogs barking in the backyard. And then the second one, my puppy tried to eat my Storytime bear, which was, the kids actually thought it was a lot.
All right, so Amanda says, watch out for the pets, maybe unless you're doing puppy story time. Her cat made a cameo in hers.
Oh.
Amanda, yeah. you got frozen on us.
Oh, sorry. So I don't know how much did you not hear?
We heard a couple stories about your dogs.
Oh, okay. So no, I agree. There's pros and cons, I think, to both doing it live and doing it pre-recorded. My kiddos because I did doing it live, they love getting those shout outs. They love hearing their name. They love knowing that you remember who they are. And so I think that just kind of gives it an organic, reality to it that otherwise they wouldn't get. But again, there were some cameos from the dogs, and things that made it a little bit awkward and gave me the giggles. And so pre-recorded probably would have been better. I would have been able to control the environment a little bit better. But I think just like has been said before, whatever works best for your situation that you're in, whether you're recording from home or you're able to get into your library and do it, I think what's going to work best for you. So.
And I did read about one library that, let me see if I can remember what library it was. So the Fayetteville Public Library, they actually have their story times set up to live stream while their library does their regular story times. So thinking when we're not in a pandemic, when libraries are open and we do regular story times, they actually stream theirs on Vimeo. But the way it works is you can only see it when it's live streaming, just like a story time. And there's no way to go back and look at it later. So I don't know if they keep digital copies for their records keeping purposes, but in general, they just do a live stream and that's it for folks who can't physically make it into the library. So other things that libraries are doing are like little how-tos to sort of enhance the storytime experience. So how to make your own sensory bins, or how to do some other activity you would normally do during a story time, how to make your own egg shakers. It's Easter time, so there's a lot of plastic eggs around. So grab your eggs, grab your washi tape, grab your beans, and make an egg shaker. So those are a few other things that people are doing. Does anybody else have any other tips they'd like to add? Or if not, we can go ahead and open it up to questions for our speakers, for the whole community. We have a lot of folks on here with a lot of great experience and brain power, so let's take advantage of it.
I think I mentioned this a little bit, but I wanted to reiterate because you were talking about like doing the how-tos. The resources that we're providing them, it's ideally a full day's worth of stuff. So if we talked about rainbows today, here are 20 things or less than that, that you can fill your whole day with and not have to go to the store to do it. And we have found that people are really, really, really loving that. So if you have time to research those sorts of things, people love that. And we're also using that space as, you know, I know we all give the, look at, we're learning auditory acuity or whatever during story time. I found that the digital story times are really great for that because no one can interrupt me. And if I don't get a chance to say what I wanted to say in the story time, we can also put that in the show notes or whatever. And I think those are getting used and digested more than ever.
Jennifer, can I pipe in something? Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go.
Hi, yeah, I was exploring a webinar today and I can't remember the name of it, but what I found on there was great resources to keeping and maintaining a regular schedule. And I think that goes across the whole board and especially for the younger kids out there. So almost like, and even us working at home, it's like maintain that schedule, program yourself to do that, and then you'll feel a lot more balanced. But anyways, I thought that that would be a great way also to reach out to our community via a live feed or recorded feed or whatnot, just maintaining on some kind of stability. So anyways, that's my share, and I can try and look for that webinar title right now.
I was reading about the Coeur d'Alene Library's digital escape room. Mandy, I was wondering, you're on the call, aren't you? Would you want to share it all about how that went for you guys? She was on here earlier, I'm not sure.
Mandy was having some connectivity issues with Thunderstorm.
Oh,
She might have had to
Yeah,
jump.
oh,
Mandy,
darn it.
Mandy was on. I'm Shar from Coeur d'Alene Library.
Oh, yeah. Did you want to talk at all about that?
Well, I don't know a whole lot about it. Angela's been using Discord as the platform, and she has two of her teen programs that have normally been in the library. They've been meeting through Discord and doing Dungeons and Dragons, and I can't remember what. Sorry, I'm not really up on this. They're not. But so she's been using Discord, and what happened as things started shutting down, she met with her teens that were coming in for programs face to face, and like said, okay, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to get on Discord, and this is how you do it. And so she had, as things were closing down, she met them, said, we're not meeting today, but here's what we're going to do. And so they were all on board with how they were going to get online. And then she reached out to the others by email or however she reached them. So that's all I really know about it.
Great, thank you. And there is quite a bit of information in the article that was linked.
Right. Yeah.
So I have just sort of a technical question. I think some of you shared how you're recording everything, but are you using phones, tablets, super fancy video recording equipment with sound and lighting and everything? How you doing it?
I have my phone balanced on my kitchen table.
Yeah, I just used my phone as well. It had a better camera than my computer because I did it one day on my phone and one day on my computer, and I like the video from my phone better. So
Yeah, we're seeing iPhone, iPad. Set it up in front of the bathroom mirror so I can see the book and the book isn't reading backwards. Yeah, that's an important thing to remember.
Here's a question. If I hold up this book, it looks backwards to me. Does it look backwards to you?
Nope.
Interesting. My daughter told me that our cameras only make us look backwards because we're used to looking in a mirror and seeing ourselves that way, and we'd look funny if we weren't backwards. I don't know if that's true or not, but apparently, like when I look at my video right now, I'm seeing this backwards, but you guys see it forwards?
We see it forward on Zoom, it's forward. On Facebook Live, it's backwards. And so on Facebook Live, it's actually, there's a button to press. And a lot of people don't realize that. It took us, like, we just figured it out.
That's terrible. That's not fair.
We've been reading backwards for weeks.
Oh.
So we've been doing this 2 weeks, and I'm telling you, it's been backwards the whole time. Today was the first time it was actually
Oh my God.
So on Zoom, it's correct. On Facebook Live, it is backwards. On YouTube, it is correct. So it is actually the application that is being used that will turn it backwards. So on Facebook, so right now for you guys, can you see that? Is it
forward?
The right direction? But if you were on Facebook right now, it would actually be the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So it was backwards. So today, afterwards, if you get a chance to watch the live video today, the kids who did time today actually put 20 minutes last night, and they made signs backwards so that when they were holding them up during their story time, the audience was seeing them the correct way. But then I like Googled it, I like troubleshot it, and so then when they got on today, their mom switched it around, and then she was like, no, I don't want to switch it because now the kids are so there is a way to do it, and I will post the corrected way, but I need to like type it up right, because the way that we found it, the instructions were like, I'm like, these instructions are awful. It was like a 15-step instruction, and it needed to be a 2-step instruction. So I need to condense it down, and then I'll like post it and get back to all of you with it. But on Facebook Live, it is backwards, but on Zoom, it is correct. So just FYI.
Did I hear that correctly, that if you're using your phone, it matters whether you're using the camera on the front or the camera on the back as to whether it's forwards or backwards?
In some apps, I do believe that is the case. On Facebook Live, though, either way you use it, you have to hit the right button in order for it to switch.
Oh, that's interesting. So, but if you record it, it's a little different because you can do a little bit of, if you record it on your iPhone, you can do some editing, check and see, and then whatever you recorded will be true to what you upload.
Correct.
Interesting.
Okay, here's another question, because I always overthink things way before I do them. So of course I haven't done a single virtual story time because I've been busy overthinking it. Does the resolution matter? Like, so you're recording in whatever, however many, I don't know, DPI, or I don't know how you talk about resolution. Does it matter? Like, I made a quick video for myself, and it came out so large after, I think I taped it for 10 seconds. No, well, I didn't tape very long. It wasn't a minute. That I couldn't even email it to myself. So I don't know, as we're doing these things and we're creating these giant files, like, does it matter that they want to see you? But I don't know. Did any of you think those thoughts?
So Fiona, I recorded mine in HD, and so the upload looks really nice, but I will say they still can't read the book. Like, it depends on the book, right? So sometimes I use a giant book and they can read that one, but I just used the book, How Do You Dance? And the words are really small and they can't see them. And I know that authors have specifically asked us not to zoom in on the pictures because then people can steal their art. So I've been trying to honor that, or at least I have my finger in the picture with it or something to obscure that. But regardless of the how well you record it, you still probably, your patrons won't be able to read the words. But yeah, I am doing mine in HD, and then I'm just plugging my cord into my phone, putting it on my computer that way, not emailing it, and then uploading it straight to Facebook from my computer. But as I said earlier, it is taking forever. I think because we're all on the internet at the same time.
Yeah, and I don't think you're ever going to find a really good way to email yourself a video. But I think Cassie's way is one way to do it. If you're recording it on a tablet or a phone that you can upload it directly from that device to Facebook. Say you have your library's Facebook account logged into your Facebook on your tablet, that could be a way to sort of sidestep the email process. But yeah, the video files are just super big.
Yeah, I know that on Google, they will just automatically make you put it in a Drive file if it's too big, and then you can email the Drive file to somebody.
Stacy says to upload in the middle of the night, which I think is one way to get around the congestion.
To remember about virtual Storytime is during this time, we're also gaining different readerships out there. So some people might have not come to a Storytime in the library, and they might be joining you online, or they're not library patrons, or they don't know what the library does. We have gotten a lot of inquiries, and we have had so many new members in the last 2 weeks, which seems crazy. But a lot of those are because we are doing things virtually. And we do have online books, but how are people finding out we have online books is because we're reaching out. And so I don't think Storytime is just about the story. It's also about reaching your community and even outside the community. I mean, we've had people tune in from Boise, Meridian, Star, and when we talk about online books, they're like sending us a message and I'm like, no, your library has online books. Not just mine, yours does too. And it's shocking how many people don't realize that libraries across the state, across the nation have access to online books. And so I think that we also have to remember it's not just about the story, it's about giving your community access to books. And right now we're just giving them access to the information to get those books. Tumble books. If you can read, hold up your tablet and tell them, Tumble books right now, free for you. Get it right now. Your kids have access to 20,000 books digitally for free. Just reiterating that repeatedly, because I think you're still getting audiences who don't know. And so I think that's important too. It's not just about the story.
I love it, Sherry. Thank you. And it sounds like all of you who have shared have had really positive experiences personally interacting with the folks in your communities and beyond because of this, which I think a lot of us are maybe missing a little bit as our library buildings are closed. So we've got about 9 minutes left. At the beginning of this chat, I had people go into the actual chat, the group chat, and type just one word about how they were feeling about streaming story times. So we've talked a little bit, shared some experiences of people here in Idaho who are doing streaming story times for their library communities. So everybody want to bounce back into the chat and just type one word about how you're feeling about it now. Inspired. Oh, good question. So as you're typing this, most of this chat that we've been having, the video part has been recorded. I will be posting it to the COVID-19 website somehow at some point, along with notes with all the links that were shared. And then when all of that's ready to go, I'll send something out on Live Idaho too, so that all of you have a place to go to access it. And if it might take me a few days to get it done because I'm working from home as well and trying to figure out how to get everything done from home. But if I don't get it done by Friday, shoot me an email and I will feel so guilty that I will definitely get it done. All right, so people are feeling better than they were at the beginning. It's excited, optimistic. And yes, we will be saving the chat. And if you want to save the chat for yourself, there are, if you hit the little, there's 3 dots at the bottom of the chat box. You can, after you feel like you've gotten everything that you want to, you can hit save chat and it will save it for yourself. So feel free to do that. Oh, not excited about being on camera. I feel like this is a good time to use puppets if you want to. So, you know, bust out your favorite puppet and just have the puppet tell a story. Feel more comfortable about copyright, that's good. Grateful, raring to go. All right. So Dottie says, I wanted to add a social emotional component to virtual story time like Mr. Rogers. Children need to know what to do with how they're feeling. Has anybody thought about doing some social emotional, some extra work during story time, maybe like a breathing exercise or just a moment to meditate?
So Miss Idaho yesterday did our story time, and she actually read The Seed of Compassion by the Dalai Lama. And she engaged with the kids in a beautiful, beautiful way. I actually recommend for every librarian, if you reach out to Miss Idaho, she would do a virtual story time. She's in Seattle right now for college, and so she's completely like stuck in her apartment, and so she has to do it from her house. But even if they just tuned in one day, she was absolutely amazing. And she talked about, so she's worked with the CDC, and she has a ton of knowledge. She was absolutely brilliant. And she was able to answer questions, and kids had questions about, will my animal get corona? And her engagement was really positive. And I do think that adding those components in there is good, because some of those kids do have wild questions, and she was wonderful. She told them though to do yoga, and she even offered to do that. So I think that those kind of things are good to build out. I don't think that's the direction we're going right now. But she did offer, and it was a wonderful kind of idea to think that that a library could do that.
I love that. We're also doing sort of in the Mr. Rogers style, I guess I'm a student of his, is very much just addressing it. Like the very first one, because at first we were doing it in the library, and then all of a sudden we were at my house. And so I made sure to take a good chunk of time at the beginning of that story time to say, hey, look, you're in my house with me right now. It's not because I'm sick. It's because, you know, our community is doing this thing. I'm doing it too. You're doing it too, you know, that kind of stuff. So I talk about it during every single one. I read books that are relevant. So I read like Through with the Zoo, if you haven't read that. It's about a goat who's just tired of being around the touchy-feely people around him, and he needs some space. So I read stuff like that, and then we talk a little bit about like, do you need some space right now? How are some ways you can find that space? And I think reassuring the kids that I'm okay is sort of also, you're okay too. You're okay and I'm okay. I do also do some education stuff. So like in a few days ago in Storytime, I said, oh, isn't it so hard not being able to use the playground toys? I mean it. Don't use them. Like, parents.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. We've got some good articles being shared. The Kyle Courtney article's been shared a couple of times, and definitely if you have any like lingering like it doesn't feel good about the copyright issue, you're just feeling really like unsure about it, read Kyle Courtney's blog post on library copyright during COVID. We have it on the spreadsheet. It's just got linked in the chat. It's a good one. It lays everything out really nicely. And he's a lawyer, so it's good advice. Although not necessarily legal advice to you. All right, well, if there's no other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap things up for us. Look out for a notification on Lib Idaho that the recording is ready to view or just check in with ICFL's COVID-19 website because it has lots of great resources and I know you're so excited about it. And I want to thank all of you for taking time this afternoon to connect with each other and to share your stories and experiences. Thanks to Sherry, Cassie, and Stacy. I've really enjoyed what you are doing at all of your libraries, and I'm just so inspired by all of the work so many of you have been able to do in such a short amount of time with literally no resources. So you are all amazing, and thank you for being here. And now we will stop the recording.
Thank you.